Welcome to our September Congenital Heart Surgery Database monthly webinar. On the call today, we have from the STS myself, Leanne Jones, Database Manager for Thoracic and Congenital. From the STS, we also have Carol Crone. We also have Addie Dolan. We have Jane Hahn. We also have a couple of our core group members, Chastity and Leslie, joining. From the IQVIA team, we have Melanie, Jeanette, Jean, Joe, and Rhonda, our typical group of players. So welcome, everybody. For today's agenda, I'll cover a couple of quick housekeeping items, provide a STS harvest and AQO update, and then I'll turn things over to Melanie and the team for the IQVIA update. And then finally, we'll finish up with our Q&A portion. And also just a friendly reminder to please submit any questions via the Q&A function. All right, for our housekeeping items, just a reminder that the September training manual was updated and posted out on the website. I've responded to nearly all of the questions that were covered on this month's call. I think I had one or two that required additional follow-up. So I will be responding to those last two questions as soon as I get the input. These FAQs that were discussed last week will be added to the October training manual coming within the next couple of weeks. Also, a reminder that the rules for determining primary procedure were updated or were posted to the STS website. These rules should be found also within the library within the IQVIA platform. And also, in case you didn't know, we have the next congenital data version upgrade coming in January 2022. For any of our newer data managers, the database undergoes a version upgrade every 3 years. And even though 2022, I have a hard time saying that, even though 2022 sounds very far away, it will be here before we all know it. And the STS and Congenital Database Task Force members are in the initial stages of the upgrade, and we'll be working together over the next several months. For the next data version, we'll be having a lot of conference calls to get this upgrade underway. If you have any thoughts or ideas for the next upgrade, please feel free to share them with me. You can email me your comments or suggestions at ljones@sts.org. We are also going to be working on improving the training manual for the next version. So again, feel free to share any comments, suggestions for improvements, enhancements, any ideas that you have that would make the data manager training manual more beneficial for our data managers. Again, that's one of my biggest goals for the next upgrade, is to make some dramatic improvements to that training manual for our data managers. All right, just to recap, as you all know, the spring and fall harvest is underway. The harvest submission deadline is currently set for Friday, October the 16th. The last day to opt out of the current harvest is Tuesday, October the 20th. As you all are aware, we have the new reports that are available, and we have the primary procedure mismatch report that is coming soon. Currently, the mortality eligibility summary report is available for your data cleanup resources. And again, the primary procedure mismatch report will be coming next week on 9/26, and the IQVIA team will be talking more about these two reports later on in the presentation. And again, a reminder that there will be one analysis, one report for 2020, and the surgery dates that are to be included are from July 1, 2016 through 6/30/2020. Also, STS public reporting is set to resume in 2021. The Public Reporting Task Force and surgeon leaders are working to enhance the STS Public Reporting website for 2021. So please stay tuned for additional public reporting updates and information that will be coming soon from the STS. As you all are aware, our AQO is coming very soon in the next couple of weeks. Our very first AQO will be held September 29th through October the 2nd. And the congenital database session is going to be held on Friday, October the 2nd. Obviously, the early bird pricing did expire on Monday, September 7th, so we hope you all were able to take advantage of that awesome price. If you were not able to, the standard pricing of $150 for STS members or $200 for non-members is still an amazing price for the amount of education you'll be receiving, as well as the networking opportunities, the opportunities to receive continuing education credits. Let's see, we also, just to give you all an update, we have received a AQO attendance update from our marketing team, and as of last week, we had just over 600 people registered for AQO. So again, we hope you can join us this year. If you aren't able to join us, we do hope you can catch us next year in Denver. Hopefully that will be a live and in-person meeting, as I do miss seeing everyone, and I am looking forward to being able to travel again soon. For our all things AQO, please be sure to visit our webpage. You can view the sessions that will be available. You can review the detailed agenda. You can find out more information regarding the CEs and CEUs, as well as get registered if you haven't already done so. Also this year we'll be offering social and networking events for all attendees, regardless of the days which you have registered. We'll have a meet and greet. We'll have a coffee chat. STS will be offering a yoga session, a meditation session, as well as we'll have trivia with prizes. So again, if you have not already done so, we do encourage you to get registered for AQO sooner rather than later. For any program-related questions, please contact Emily Conrad at econrad@sts.org. If you have any questions related to registration, you can contact Amy Cassich, and her email address is also listed there on the slide, acacich@sts.org, and Amy can help you with any of the registration questions. All right, next I'm going to turn things over to our IQVIA team for their updates. We're going to turn things over to Joe.
Awesome, thank you. Hi everybody. Let's go ahead and jump in. We'll talk about some fixes that were put in this last weekend on the 12th, starting with some updates to the missing variable report, STS 3356. This has to do with the status at 365 days after surgery. That should now appear correctly on the report in all situations. STS 3389. So this has to do with the chromosomal abnormality other specified field. For that, the genes with identified abnormality should now correctly count and for that other specified field. And so if you have those scenarios, that should no longer appear on the missing variable report as missing because that gene data element should satisfy that requirement. STS 3501. So for cases where the patient is indicated to still be in the hospital, those will now be excluded on the, it's under the missing variable report. The bug note says the dashboard report, so I believe that is the dashboard where that fix is going through. And then similarly here, STS 3641, also regarding the dashboard report, the op type section is should be restored now, so that should now appear for you in that report. Then we had some enhancements. We're looking at the dashboard report. There were some updates made to the premature birth label, and so that will have gone into effect over this past weekend. And then we have our list of items that are slated for our October 10th release. So the first two here, STS 3662 and STS 3122. These are some improvements we're looking to make to the harvest summary report. We're looking to add the total number of cases and the surgery date range, just to have some display items there that will make that easier to get that information at a glance. STS 3560. This was a unique situation for one site. We did isolate a couple records where there was an issue where the surgeon name was missing, even though it was listed on the case form. And so that fix is coming through next month as well. STS 3565. This is to do with CPBTM and some other data elements we reported as not appearing on the MVR when they should be. And so that is also slated for next month's fix. S407, the MVR is showing the valve explant model number for the fourth explant is missing when there was not a fourth explant per the parent field. And so that will be resolved next month as well. The next pair, STS 3609 and STS 3225, both of these have to do with the autologous transfusion data element appearing incorrectly in the MVR. And so that has to do with the mismatch with the version number in the 3.3 version. So any updates that were made, updates are going to be made to that report so that it correctly references the version 3.3 expectations, and so that should no longer appear when it shouldn't after the October update. And then STS 3604. This is another site-specific question that we had received that we were looking into. We had some reports of variables that they were concerned weren't appearing correctly on the report. And so we are looking into that, and we'll have that addressed for the next update. And then finally, STS 3587, transfusion of blood products after 24 hours post-procedure. That's showing up on the MVR when the question was answered in the vendor system. So we are looking into how that relates to the parent field for version 3.3 records. And also we're looking into some issues also related to the denominator for that report. It was showing that there was a value greater than 100% for that data element. So we are looking into get that fixed as well. And so just please know, if you have submitted tickets that were not mentioned here, those tickets are under review, and we will follow up with you for any resolution regarding target release dates and confirmations on those bugs. So if your an issue that you had reported is not referenced here, please know that we are indeed still working on that. All right, and I believe that does it for me.
Yep, thank you so much, Joe.
Yep.
Next, we're going to turn things over to Rhonda Murphy for the update on the new report. Rhonda?
Hello. So coming out will be the case eligibility report. I think it's the next slide. Right, okay, thank you. So coming out will be this new report here. So you'll navigate to the operational reports page, and you'll see a link for this primary procedure mismatch and mortality eligibility summary report. And clicking on that link will open up this new report here. Next slide, please. Thank you. We'll open up this case eligibility for mortality analysis report. And what you'll see within the report is a left panel of filter options. So you have the option to filter by surgery year, patient ID. If you want to focus in on just ineligible cases, you can do that with the ineligible or eligible filter. There's a missing mortality yes/no filter. So if you want to filter out those records that are just missing the mortality variables, you can use that filter there. And then finally, the data version filter, so that you can focus in on a specific data version if that's what you're looking for. And then within the report itself, you'll see there's a summary section up top that gives you that summary information by surgery year and surgery date range. You'll see your total number of records, which does include your inpatients, and then the number of ineligible cases and your percent missing or unknown calculation, which those two do not include the inpatient numbers. That information is also available to you off to the side there in that report notes section. So you will have the ability to, once you're within the report, if you've forgotten any of this information, you can look at the report notes and it would be listed there. Clicking on a row in the summary section activates the details section below. And what you'll see within that details section is the counts, the patients that make up that count that you clicked on. And you'll also have columns for each of the variables that go into the calculation, and then an X within the an X will note which variables were missing from that record. So in this screenshot here, we see on that first row that the hospital discharge status, database discharge status, and 30-day status was all missing from that one patient record. So that gives you a quick peek at what was missing before actually having to go into the record. But if you wanted to go in and get more information about that record, you will have a blue hyperlink off to the side there under Access Case. And clicking on that link will open up that case and you can see all of the information about that patient. You can, in the different sections, so if I'm clicking on the summary table or on the detailed table, I can right click and export those tables in case I wanted to go offline and do some further analysis. I can export those tables. That's about the gist of the mortality report. There's also some information here on the slide in case you have any other questions. Thank you.
And let me jump in if
Sure.
I can. Thank you, Rhonda. This is Melanie. Just wanted to make sure that everyone, we of course have some points that are listed to the left in regards to the definition of the inpatient record, because we did get questions during the time of beta testing. So we wanted to make sure that we call those points out for you. So the other thing is this is currently available for you. This is live. As of the past weekend when we did the updates to the system, this report is now enabled. So if you hadn't had a moment to go in and take a look at that, it's there for you. So you will see the link, and it does have the name of both reports because they will be available in the same section. But remember that the primary procedure mismatch, that tab will be hidden when you go in there today. It will be enabled next week. So just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. If you haven't taken a look, please take a moment and go ahead and review your information so that you can get a jump on that. But that's what we wanted to make sure that you are aware of. And next we have some steps, some checklist steps. So if we can go to the next slide. And let's go to the harvest close checklist. So we'll have this available, of course, and posted. There is another resource that we are putting together that basically gives you a comparison of the reports of when you had your previous PDF and where you would find that information in the application. So that is another resource that we are also just reviewing and going to also have that available for you so you can use that during the time of cleaning your data. So at a high level, we wanted to just provide these steps here of what do you need to do to make sure that everything that you have uploaded, that everything is ready for analysis. So these are the steps that we've put together. The first thing, of course, is to make sure that you upload procedures or operations for the identified reporting period. And so that information, of course, is available on the STS website where we have the harvest schedule information, and there is details in regards to the reporting period for that harvest timeframe. And so once you've done your upload, you would want to go ahead and review your data quality report. And the data quality report is specific to each submission that you've done in the system. And so when you have that uploader card entry appear, you'll have that link that will allow you to view the data quality report. So the main thing that you want to pay attention to at this step is to review any critical errors that generate. You want to make sure that you resolve those errors. Critical errors could basically be related to items that are potentially out of range. So maybe it's a lab value where the value was defined by the data spec as being, it will accept 1 through 100, but for that field, for some reason, 300 was entered in. And so it will flag a critical error. So you want to make sure that you resolve those because those records will not save to the data warehouse. After those are corrected, you would then, of course, re-export that file from your software vendor system and then upload that back to the IQVIA system so that it is accepted. The other thing that you would do within the data quality report is review any errors or warnings that are related to that submission. If you encounter any of those, you're able to address those during that review. Within the data quality report, there is also another report available, which is the critical summary report. So later on during the question and answers, if we have time, we'll go ahead and just show you, just to make sure that everyone is familiar with where you're able to find these reports. But this report for that's called critical summary is available within the existing data quality report. And you're able to review that information by submission date. It's not driven by surgery date, it's driven by the submission date. So it's looking at all of the dates of when you submitted or uploaded your files to the system. So you would run the report using that date range. And in that report, you're able to review the total number of records that were included in that submission. How many of those records were successful? How many of those failed or encountered a critical error? And also it will give you information if records were not updated. So it was recognized as being available in the data warehouse and there were no updates. So it does give you a count of that also. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. There we go. All right.
Sorry, I was
Okay.
clicking the button and nothing was working.
Sometimes it happens. This is like respond. So the next report that you would be able to review is the harvest summary report. And the harvest summary report is going to give you all of your records, depending on the surgical date range that you enter. It will allow you to review all of those records for that time frame and determine if there were any outstanding error messages or warnings. And so this gives you a single point of reference rather than having to look at the individual submissions. You're able to go in and identify the time frame that you would like to review all of the records and then do that actual address each of those items there. And it also will tell you whether or not you have any existing errors or warnings. And so if you have none, then it would basically let you know that there are no validations that are pending. So no errors or warnings that are pending on that record. The next report would be the missing variable report. And here is where you're able to, again, enter in your surgery date range and review those variables that are flagged within the system as being missing. And so you would use this to really make sure that those key fields that you know you would need to review, the mortality related fields, you would go in and make sure that those items are updated. So if you do identify that there were some records that had variables that should have been updated, you would of course verify within your software vendor system, make those edits, and then go ahead and re-export that information and upload back to the IQVIA system. Okay, and that would basically be refreshed and you would see those changes within the missing variable report. And let's go to the next slide. And here we will have the new report that we just showed you. Rhonda just went through that walkthrough of the case analysis report. You're able to now go in and take a look at that report, again, using the surgical date range. And here you're able to determine and hone in on which cases are ineligible based on the fields that are key. And it's going to give you that feedback to let you know what actual fields are missing for those cases. And the cool thing about that report is that you have, of course, the access to navigate and then, of course, review that case form if you needed to just do a quick review. So we give you that feedback on the report to say that the fields missing, but if you wanted to go into the report, you have that navigation available to you also. And then next week, you'll see the new report, which is the primary procedure mismatch, where you're able to do that comparison. The system will then generate, based on the rules of the highest stat score being assigned, and then the rules that are for specific scenarios, it will then present the information of what was selected by you in the case form and what the system is generating to determine whether or not there is a mismatch. So that again will be available next week. Let's go to the next slide. And this should be the final step within this process at this time, which would be to be able to review the full picture. And that's going to be reviewing your participant dashboard report. And here you're able to, of course, go in, enter in your respective filters, and all of these are required filters. So you would enter in your date, your procedures, either by stat or just by procedure, the age information, and then whether or not you would want to display the index operations or all operations. And then once that generates, you will be able to review the different sections of the report. And then key areas that I know we always get questions about is being able to review your op types, your operation types. That's now back and available, so you can go in there today and take a look and review that. Your mortality status at hospital discharge, status at 30 days after surgery, and then operative mortality. Being able to review those items, and of course all of the other available sections for you to review. You can go in and use this report to do that full picture review.
Hey, Melanie, thank you. This is Carol. I have a quick question.
Carol.
I have a quick question on this slide for the second bullet point where it says enter the required report parameters. For date, are we to enter the date of procedures, or are we to enter the date of submissions for the upload?
Oh, that's a great question and good clarifying question. So that is your surgical date range. And so we have some predefined reporting ranges already available for you. So you'll have the drop down and you'll have those available predefined reporting dates, or you can go in and enter in a specific date because you have that date picker. So that again is by surgery time frame. It's not in regards to submission dates. Okay. The only report that uses the submission time frame is the critical summary report.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this is the last slide, Leanne, before we move into the support plan. So I will turn it back over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Melanie. All right. Again, these final slides you all are very familiar with. IQVIA support plan. Please note, when you do contact IQVIA support via phone or email, please be sure to include your participant ID number and any and all communications with support. It helps them to identify your site as quickly as possible. And also, some sites do have multiple participant IDs. So again, please be sure to include that participant ID number when you are contacting support. Again, we have the support, you're initially contacted with Tier 1 and then routed to Tier 2 accordingly, or to STS. Tier 2 will follow up and then we'll follow up accordingly with you. And then same with STS. If your question is routed to STS, we'll follow up accordingly as well. And again, the support plan is available out on the STS website for your review. Resources available to you. We do have the STS National Database webpage. IQVIA tech support, phone number and login, website, I'm sorry, the IQVIA tech support email, as well as phone support number. We have our STS National Database feedback form for you to provide feedback, and also the resource documents that are available to you out on the STS website. We have our contact information, all of our webinar information, training videos, all that information is available to you out on the STS website. Also, my contact information, please feel free to contact me directly with any questions, concerns. Feel free to email me. Again, all my contact information is listed here. If you have any database operational questions, please feel free to contact us at stsdb@sts.org for any questions regarding participation agreements, payments. You have questions about your participant contact form, current contacts listed at your site. You have questions about surgeons or adding surgeons, getting access to the platform. Again, just email us at stsdb@sts.org. All right. Be sure to please mark your calendars accordingly for our next two webinars. We have two user group calls coming up. Our next user group call is scheduled for September 22nd at 12 p.m. Central. And then our second user group call is scheduled for October the 6th at 12 p.m. Central. So please be sure to mark your calendars and join us for those user group calls. All right, next we'll finish up the session today. We'll turn it over to you all for your questions. Please be sure to submit using the Q&A. And if you have submitted a ticket regarding one of your questions, please be sure to include that ticket number. And that way, Jean and her team on the call can quickly access your ticket and take a look and have some information available to hopefully try and answer your call while we're, your question while we're on the phone. All right, if everyone's ready, I think we have quite a few questions coming in. So if you all are ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
Hey, Leanne, this is Carol.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, I would like for us to rerun through the dates of what's being released, what's impacting a majority of sites. I think it's confusing when we have things that are, I think it's helpful, but could be confusing to everybody on the call, to the 70 people on the call, if there's something on that, on the list that's being presented as an issue that's only impacting a few sites. So there was a question, there's some questions in there about the timelines and our harvest close. So I just want to rerun through the timeline of what's being released and things like that, so we can figure out if it's going to work for the sites or not before we answer questions.
All right, so I will go back to, we have our, I don't know if IQVIA wants to run through these again. So we have our September 20 release. And this, I don't know, Mel or Joe, if you guys want to provide the update or just the review over these things that have been released versus what's coming up. So we have the September 2020 release update. These are the items that were released this past weekend on September the 12th regarding the missing variable report. I'm sorry, was that someone?
This is Jeanette. So this item was also released. If you want to go, I think the next slide. So these are items that are coming in an upcoming release. So they've not yet gone live yet, but these are targeted for October 10th. And then I think there was another slide that also listed kind of the 3 blocks of one more.
Jeanette, could we go back to that slide? Because I think that this is where the issues,
this is where
some of the questions are coming in at, because this is just 6 days before the harvest closes, and it's really difficult. I'm going to start with this. It's really difficult for sites to clean up their data in 5 days, Monday through Friday, and hope that they have everything right. So I wanted to run through these because I think that when they see this, it's kind of alarming that there's, I think 8 or 9 issues here, but actually some of these are only impacting a very, maybe 1 or 2 sites, and other things, I don't know how widespread they are. So if it's something,
well, some of these aren't even issues, so I can give sort of an overview. So the first 2 items that are listed, these are not issues. These are suggestions that we've gotten from users saying that it would be really helpful if the harvest summary report displayed a total number of cases for quick reference, and also displayed the surgery date range for quick reference. So those first 2 items are not issues. They're improvements that are going in based on user feedback. So thank you all who have given this feedback. The next set of items, these are impacting some users. So the surgeon name is displayed as missing, but the value is actually there. So we do have the data in some of the instances where this is occurring. So if you have reviewed your missing variable report and either you don't see any missing surgeon names, then, obviously there you're fine. If you do see a surgeon name is missing and you look at your case form itself and it's there, then this is fine. You don't need to take any action. You can just wait for the fix to post, and then the report should show the information reflecting what you've got submitted to the database. It's a similar issue for the next two items. So these are related to fields which are showing as missing. One, because it doesn't consider a parent value, so we're adjusting that logic. And then the other just with certain fields not being reflected appropriately to what they've been submitted. And then for the STS 3609, which is now the fourth from the bottom. So this is adding a validation check for autologous. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Autologous.
Autologous. I was close. For OpType in the 3.3 version. So this is not impacting all surgeries. It's only one of the two versions. And this will be adjusted. And then we've got a display issue on the autologous transfusion field in the MVR. Again, that is somewhat isolated. It's not it's not widespread. And then we've got one that we're investigating, 3604. I don't know, Joe or Melanie, if you're able to pull up more specifics. I don't remember this one off the top of my head. But this is one that is some site-specific questions that have reached out to us that we're working on clarifying. And then we've got one where a transfusion variable is appearing as missing, even though the answer is set to no. So these are very specific to these variables. And in all of these instances, the data is being submitted okay. There would be no need to resubmit your values or your records. So if you are seeing any of these discrepancies, we do apologize for that. We're working on getting those display discrepancies updated in the missing variable report. But not all of these, as I mentioned, are widespread, and the first two are definitely improvements. They're not issues.
Yeah, and I want to make a comment. Thank you for re-going through this screen. I want to make a comment that vendor software is, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't expect IQVIA to fix these issues and allow enough time for cleanup, but sites also need to be using their vendor software before they submit data that ensures that what's going into the data warehouse is clean to start with. And IQVIA should kind of be the second check off of your vendor software. So please make sure, I'm not dismissing these issues at all, but to help sites out a little bit, to give a little peace of mind, please make sure you're utilizing your checks within your vendor software, because we do require vendor software to build, to allow for certain queries to check for these issues before you even submit it into the warehouse. And when we go into, so IQVIA is working on these, but it's also important to check before you send it in. And on our next version upgrade, we will have more checks in place that happen when sites are entering data into their vendor software. So we'll also help with this in the future. But in the time being, while IQVIA gets this straightened out, is working on these, I suggest using your vendor software as well for that process. So I will hand it back over to you, Jeanette, or Rhonda, to go through the next section again.
Yeah, and then I think it's 2 slides ahead, if I'm remembering correctly. Aha, yes.
Yes.
So here we've got the case eligibility for inclusion and mortality analysis report. So this, as was mentioned on this call and demonstrated, thank you, Rhonda, this is already available. So you are able to review this report right away without delay. And then coming on September 26th will be the additional tab. So you'll access it from the same link that you get to for the mortality analysis report, But at the bottom of the screen, there will be a second tab that you can click on to navigate into the primary procedure mismatch report. And this will be available on September 26th. Carol, did that cover?
Yeah, that's really helpful, Jeanette. Thank you. I know we'll still have some questions, but I just wanted to run through that because I think seeing the October 10th is a little bit scary to people when things close in 6 days. So that was this review was helpful. Thank you.
Yep. And just to reiterate again, just to hopefully reassure everybody, there is nothing that we're seeing right now that would require everybody to resubmit everything. So, you know, there are some feedback points that we've gotten about data displaying in the missing variable report, but all of the information is flowing into the system, and none of these issues should require everybody to resubmit.
Great. Since we were just talking about that primary procedure report, one of the sites wanted to know if the primary procedure was going to be available for retesting and beta prior to release.
Yes, that's our intent, and this is Melanie. So that's we are going to open that back up this week for our beta testers to go back in. We're coordinating. Most likely what we'll also do is just come back together with the beta testers before you get started. We run through some scenarios, and then, of course, you're able to go in within the test environment and take a look at the data to make sure that you can use your data at that point within that environment to do the review.
Great. Thank you, Mel. Okay, let me put, I'm going to put this October, before I get into more questions, excuse me, I'm looking for a particular slide. I'm going to put this back up just for review in case anyone needs that handy. Let's tackle our next question. This is from Kelly. I believe this has been addressed before. I have numerous records that IQVIA is flagging with the following warning. DMOG data version does not match data version of the form. These are 2020 records that also had records in the previous data versions. Do we need to fix this issue? Will it impact analysis if it is not corrected?
I can answer. This is Melanie. So it's a informational message to let you know that there is, and if I am remembering this correctly, if you needed to do an update to the demographic data version, you should have that ability to do that within your vendor software system. So this warning message is just letting you know that there is a version difference between the demographic data version and the data version of the form. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking that there is an availability within the vendor system to do that update. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay. So that message is basically letting you know that there is that mismatch and you could go in and do that update. It does not impact your analysis. It does not impact that, but it's just a informational message to let you know that you could go ahead and update that demographic data version.
So it does not, this is Carol, Melanie, so it does not impact that record being accepted in or anything?
It does not. That is correct. It does not.
Thank you.
All right. Our next question, if I have a patient that had 2 surgical procedures and 1 admission. Locally, I noted that I have 2 different discharge dates for each procedure. Instead of flagging the illogical discharge dates, IQVIA flagged both cases as primary index procedures. Does IQVIA have a mechanism to flag this type of mismatch? Okay.
This question actually came through with support. So this type of check is not part of the data spec criteria right now. So this would be a potential area for improvement with the future version. But right now, this is something that you would want to keep an eye on and monitor for consistency on your own, because this is not an enforced criteria check in the congenital data spec at the moment.
And just to clarify, to add on to that, this is Carol again, the congenital data specs that Jeanette is referring to, those were built from STS and DCRI, and that is what your vendor software is built off of. So it's nothing at the IQVIA, it's not specs that are built at IQVIA. This is the version spec that we do every 3 years for the database. So those types of checks will be added into the next version.
Right. Let's see here. IQVIA flagging donor hearts as index procedures. Is there a plan to correct this? And I believe that's something that we would also need to, Jeanette, add to the list.
Yeah, I think we need to follow up on this separately. I know this question has come our way, and that heart transplant is considered a primary procedure, and then so it considers what the primary procedure designation is as well within the index procedure determination. So, you know, we want to make sure that guidance is all aligned clinically, and if there does need to be an adjustment there, we'll want to discuss that with STS.
Yeah, we can add this to our call for Friday. Let's get this one of our topics for discussion. Review that again.
Okay.
All right. Next, if we're having an issue with MT365 stats still showing as missing, but it is not 365 days since the operation, do you think this is a problem with the DAT file or something else?
Pat, if you've not yet reached out about your specific scenario, this is one that the IQVIA support team would be able to work with you on to more closely dig in order to identify what's going on here. I do believe that the field would potentially show as missing if it was not yet filled out, but we'll double check on that.
And we also, and I'm not sure if we go back a slide, Leanne, I think even with that, if this is currently, one more slide, sorry, back to this slide. If that's still occurring, that should have been an item, I think, and if this is the missing variable report with the MT365 stat, the 1-year logic, we updated that logic in this previous weekend's release. So if this is still occurring for you, we would need to know, because we need to look at the specific example. But if it's something that you ran prior to this release and you were experiencing that, I would just encourage you to try it again. And if it is still an issue, if you could go ahead and let us know if you haven't already reached out to support.
Great, thank you, Mel. Our next question, the current MVR includes inpatients and fields that should be excluded, like last follow-up.
Yeah, I was, again, I was just gonna check. I don't know that we had that logic in the data specs for 341.
Yeah, that's something, that's something that we can take offline and look and then readdress. So I'm just making a note.
I was just scrolling through the data collection form. Hold on one second. I just wanted to check to make sure. I think because that's a good question, because if you still have patients in-house, you don't want to be checking missingness on patients. You don't need to be checking missingness on, but I think this was an issue with the version that we did not have in place. Hold on one second. Oh, actually, it looks like it should be. So that's 4210. So Melanie, do you have anything about that one?
Say that again. I'm sorry. I was here trying to pull up this other issue. My apologies.
It's okay. And I'm not sure if it's a parent. So episode care patient in hospital sequence 4210 is a parent to a bunch of discharge fields. I don't know if it's trying to see if it's a parent to the last follow-up field, but that's still showing up as missing for patients that are located still in the hospital.
Hey, it's Leslie. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think last known follow-up date is a demographics level field. So that's going to live with the patient regardless of the event.
Oh,
So it's not
Oh,
dependent on when they're discharged. It's just what their last known follow-up date was.
but that's good to know. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
So it's going to show up missing on your current record if it's not provided. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Leslie? Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. Our next question from Kelly. I understand that IQVIA does not change our data. However, it's still concerning that we have releases, updates that are being published on the 10th and harvest closes on the 16th. The FTS have plans to extend the harvest deadline. And as Carol, just discussed, we're looking at all the release dates, and we understand that, things being released on the 10th and the harvest deadline on the 6th, 6 days after that. We understand that. We hear your concerns, and we will take those back and discuss those, your concerns and the deliverable dates internally with STS and IQVIA. So we hear your concerns. Carol, did you have anything to add?
No, I just encourage also, as these updates are coming out, if they are not affecting your sites, then that's great. If they are, then I just suggest using your vendor software to check these fields. Of course, we'll discuss this internally, especially after we have all the other reports available and how those are doing, and then surgeon leadership will make a decision about any type of harvest deadline discussion comes from them.
All right, so let's see here. We do not need to upload records that we have not changed since the last harvest, correct? So for example, for this harvest, it is recommended that we upload records for the date range of 1/1/19 through 6/30/2020, correct? Yes, Kelly, that is correct. If you have not gone back and updated any records that have been previously submitted, then you do not need to resubmit those records in this current harvest. So that is correct. So can you please, from McCall, can you please have a bullet summary of the reports available and the sections they reside in? So absolutely. I think Melanie and I are working on a document that is going to be published within the library within the next week. Mel, did you have anything that you wanted to add about the summary of reports?
And we also have, so we'll have that document. And with that, what we want to do also to make it clear is have cross-reference to where this report resided in your paper report. So you have a comparison of what you used to review and what you will currently review within the IQVIA platform. And of course, the steps to navigate to each of those reports.
I was actually on mute. I was talking to myself there for a second. And Heidi, is that a question from Heidi? Is it possible to combine some or all of these reports to streamline the cleanup process for harvesting? There are so many working angles here. It does lead one to question accuracy of the harvesting process and data analysis. So I know this is feedback that we've gotten before, and I think Jeanette and team we're looking at the possibility of having it in one document, or I don't know, Jeanette or Melanie, if you guys wanted to elaborate on that.
We'll take this feedback back and evaluate. We are making an adjustment on the operational reports page itself to make it easier to navigate into the reports and to see the summary of what each of those mean without needing to click into something. So that change is expected to be adjusted this month, and we hope that will just help a little bit with the visibility. But we would need to look at adjusting the various links to the reports to consolidate them all together. These reports are interactive and do contain references to quite a bit of data here. So we also want to make sure that we're giving you options to load reports that are relevant to what you're immediately looking at and are quick to open as much as possible. So the more we put all together, the longer it takes to load up for you. So we want to balance that along with the desire to have fewer clicks to get around the system.
Great. Thank you, Jeanette. All right. Our next question, is there a way to review data by surgery date and not submission date? Same things are done based on surgery date. Using the submission date doesn't seem logical.
I think there may be some confusion around, there's only one report that uses the submission date. That's the critical summary report. And the critical summary report is related to your uploads. So it's looking at providing you information for your upload submission. All other reports will generate off of the surgery date. So when you go in and enter in any criteria for your missing variable or for your dashboard, that's all looking at the surgery time frame. So the only report that is using submission is the critical summary report. And even in that report, when you get the submission entries, you will see the surgery, the first surgery date and the last surgery date. So you have that range that's going to be available for you. But hopefully that cleared up any confusion around that.
All right. Let's see here. Our next question, where can we find this harvest close checklist on the website? If you're referring to this checklist that is in the slides, these slides will be posted along with the recording within the next day or two. After this call, I'll get things over to marketing and get it posted. Also, as Mel indicated earlier, we're working on kind of a crosswalk document that would be available for you all, and that would be posted within the IQVIA platform as well as on the STS website. Once those documents are available, I think I don't have the location yet, but once I do get those posted, ideally I think posting them under the harvest information page or additional resources page. I don't know. To be honest, Diane, I need to look at the website to see specifically where I'd want to post that information. But I would send out an email to participants letting you know where, when those documents are available and where they are located. So more information will come, and I'll let you know where you can access those documents out on the STS website. Our next question from Heather. On the mortality and eligibility report, if a 3-4 case is ineligible, the incorrect variable is identified. If a 3-3 case is ineligible, the incorrect variable is not identified. Can this be shown for 3-3 as well as 3-4?
Heather, we need to take a look at that example. And you may have, I know that you had sent me a message before, but we need to look at it, take a look at the example. So if you can just let me know.
Okay, here's Kelly provided a ticket number for the donor hearts being assigned their primary. She submitted on 9/8, but didn't receive a ticket number. She resubmitted the issue today and got the following ticket number. So Jean, I'll leave that up for you all and your team to follow up on with Kelly directly regarding that ticket number. And Christinza said she's not able to see the case eligibility and mortality analysis report available on her end. If you can't see that, Christina, I would definitely recommend contacting support. I don't know if, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to see that report available. I don't know, Mel, I don't know if you have your system open or if you wanted to show Christina how to navigate to that report.
Which one, Leanne? Sorry.
I can do that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda.
Yeah, no problem. Let me share my screen.
It's the case eligibility report. She's not seeing it on her screen, so I just wanted Rhonda to navigate out there for her. Let's see here what time. Let's check a time. We're at 2 o'clock. I do know we still have a few questions. Let's see here. Autumn had, well, Rhonda's pulling that up. Jean and team, Autumn has a ticket number here listed. That's, I'm not going to read that out loud. Submitted a month and a half ago regarding missing items on MVR for anesthesia records without an anesthesiologist. Items are in the record, but the MVR shows them missing. STS issue 3478. She just wanted to know if that would be resolved by the submission deadline.
Okay, taking a look.
I can take that other I can take the other one.
Yeah, Autumn, we
Okay.
are targeting resolving that by the October 10th release. That one is because there was no central anesthesia parent on the 3.3 data spec. So there was a disconnect about some of the logic that should be utilized for some of the anesthesia missing variables. So that is being adjusted and is targeted for October 10th.
Thanks, Jeanette.
Rhonda, stop sharing my screen if you wanted to share yours with the location.
Oh, okay. I thought I was sharing. I'm so sorry. Let me hit it again.
I know, it's okay. There we go. It's coming up now. There we go.
Okay. So my screen's up now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is how we would get there. Logging in, navigating to your operational reports, and then you should see this primary mismatch and mortality eligibility summary. And then clicking on that link, and then selecting your harvest date range and applying those parameters will then open the case eligibility summary report.
Rhonda, Carrie wanted to know if that can be exported to Excel.
Each section can be exported to Excel, so you can export the separate tables because these are separate tables. So they do require separate exporting. So clicking on this and activating your rows down here, then you can export this table. So they are exportable. It's just, you'd have to export the different sections. It doesn't, you can't, if you went up here and you did the file export and the Excel export this way, I can try that to see what happens now.
Actually, I think if you just have to make sure that you select the items. Right, you have to select the actual items in the report. So before you hit export here, oh, you did it. Okay, well, the thing is you didn't have anything selected, right? So that bottom table is not going to give you anything. So you would, if you want to have all results, you would just highlight those cells, right, for all of those, and it can populate the full list down below. And then you can do your export. It will export all of the results. So if you had, so if you have those highlighted, then you have the total results listed below and you can export and it would give you that.
Okay, and then it just puts it in different tabs. So then you can, your summary tab, and then, okay. Oh, and then it exports for both. I see.
Well, you're in another environment. So at this point in production, they would be able to see, of course, the results related to the case eligibility report. So they would have those available in the separate tabs. But yeah, and I just make sure that those are highlighted.
Right, and to highlight both, I just did a control click. So you can click one and then control click to select multiples. And then that gives you details.
And I see Christina said she's on that screen and she does not have the link to this report. So please, I was just contacting support for assistance. I say it worked. Okay. But yes, I would definitely contact support. I see we are about 5 minutes over, and I do have another. I know people have other calls to get to, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. For any of the questions that we have not had a chance to answer, I do have those. We will disseminate those to the appropriate staff. If IQVIA needs to address, I'll get those questions over to IQVIA. So please know that we will be addressing your questions and we will follow up. I wanted to thank everyone for joining me today. Got through a lot of information, so please feel free to follow up with any additional questions or concerns. I just want to thank you, IQVIA team and our STF team. Thank you guys so much for helping today. I hope you all have a great day. And we'll follow up with these outstanding questions. Thank you, everyone.